Hello, everybody. If this is your first time seeing me, my name is Luke Eichard. I am Luke Eichard Music. That's ICARD. My first and last name is at the bottom of the video there. Just change the word tutorials to music, and you'll find me on all social media. But this previous weekend, I went to a producer feedback session that was hosted by No Bad Tracks in Charlotte, North Carolina. It was awesome. I got to hear my music on professional quality DJ speakers, and everybody was loving my mixes and masters and my music. But I had a couple of new producers that I met that wanted me to go over my template that I use to make songs so quickly because they were extremely shocked when I told them that I could build a full song in 30 to 45 minutes. I hope you like the new angle, by the way. I was getting kind of tired of my right side being cluttered, but you can't see it, but the left side I have a chair for an artist or producer or whatever. But enough of that. Let's get into the tutorial. So the first thing I want to go over is my drums. And as you can see, I have everything grouped into its own sections. If we press tab, you can see I've got everything color coded and labeled. I don't color code and label every session. I start from that so I don't have to color code and label everything. But you'll notice on this screen I do not have the aux returns. If you press Option Command R, you can hide the aux returns on that specific page, and same goes for the home page. I can hide the aux returns here and only have these. These aux returns are set in stone every track. They're the same to make all my songs sound similar. I know that's a bad thing to most people, but it's got to sound like the same producer made it. But let's keep them on for now. And the first thing I wanted to go over is the drum bus. So I've got an Oxford inflator. It's cranking it pretty hard. I've got some soft clipping on the bus already to get the high end and mid range tones of these drum samples. But if you're using drum rack, this is one of the main things I wanted to go over and what I couldn't explain at the show. So each individual cell is tied to each individual plugin. Now this will make it so every time you duplicate it, like let's say you're like me and you want to kick, clap, snare, hi-hat. I have hi-hats here, but I usually use hi-hat loops because it's faster and nobody wants to spend time making freaking hi-hats. They want to be making melodies. But each cell contains its own set of plugins, and if you have plugins on every single cell, that's going to eat up a lot of your CPU. And you may notice that I only have one kick drum, and that's because I know it's in G and I could transpose it up and down keys and semitones until I get to the right pitch. Now I have this plugin called Oak Dynamic Tone Shaper on these claps and snares. This body and this punch, it's not just a EQ curve. It's based off of some old piece of equipment. I did speak to the guy that designed these plugins from Canvas Audio, and he said it wasn't just an EQ curve. There's some saturation built in, and I highly recommend Canvas Audio plugins. They don't do subscriptions, but their plugins are cheap enough that you can buy them without a subscription. And the Orange Clip plugin is my favorite clipper for drums and anything I want to flatten out, so it's a lot easier to mix. And I do have the same thing for the snares. There's orange clip on the snare, and I do have some hi-hats if I happen to be in the mood to write a hi-hat line, which I never am. I might just delete that channel. We'll see. But I have 3 different sets of basses. There's about 10 plugins in these 2 down here each. I don't have a lot of soft bass sounds. I tend to separate each instrument into different tonalities. And the Benny bass, the 808, I love, shout out Ramzoid 808, Cooker, and Subtech from Canvas Audio again. And this is an API EQ. But for these basses, sometimes I have them sent to the grit bus, the squash bus, and the lo-fi bus if I'm feeling like it's lacking a little bit. I've got Bad Tape, My Crush, and then I'm using a utility to gain it up pretty high because usually the level going into this is low. I don't recommend that unless you have some experience with leveling and you've been producing for a little while. This EQ is just to boost the high end a little bit. And I have this tape preamp. It's like a console tape emulation thing. And the squash bus has Bad Tape 2 and My Crush and an 1176 that's compressed to heck and back. But the classic basses are basses I've used in older songs that I gravitate towards because I know how they translate on certain stereo systems. And I know how to get the low end nice and round or tight or fat or however, whatever verb you want to describe those as. And same thing for these pads. I have some LFO pads, some trance pads, some house pads, some pads that already have LFOs set up, so all I have to do is automate it. I'm more of a sound curator than a sound designer, so I will go through and buy preset packs, pick the best one, and then I will meld it into the mix with EQ. I don't generally use EQ either in production. I just use a low shelf or a low cut. A low shelf for when I don't want it to go out of phase, and a low cut for when I'm trying some super like bandpassy sound. The low shelf is generally for like hi-hats if I want to just get the like the sizzly high end. And for the plucks classic, these are also plucks I used in older songs. You'll see with my naming convention, that is sort of the style I go for when I write progressive house. But these are just different plucks from preset packs. And I know you're going to ask me for a template, and I can't give this one away because I did not design the sounds. That's not what I'm not here to give away templates. I'm here to give away knowledge. So these are just different key chords synths, like this pad and this lead, and the brass lead is pretty cool. And these leads are also awesome. It's a pad lead, a lead that sounds like the crystallizer plugin from Sound Toys. And as you can see, I don't have OTT or anything on here because that part of the production, it goes from the completed stage because you don't want to put OTT on everything, call it good, be like, oh, I'm just gonna mess with the levels and I'll worry about OTT later. You don't want to do that. But the classic leads are also leads I used in older songs that I tend to gravitate towards, that I know I've got OTT on that one. After I just uh, tore it apart. But I do use this plugin called Sidewinder. I don't remember where I got it from. Oh, JST. Yeah, JST. But if you like Sidewinder and JST plugins, I'd recommend buying that during Black Friday because it is pretty cheap. I do have OTT on leads because usually I want those to stand out. And shout out F9 Audio from Instagram and Facebook because they really produce some stellar libraries. I believe they have hi-hat libraries, and this piano library I picked up that's made after classic dance and house pianos, so the tone is just incredible. It just sounds old school as crap. But these vocal chops, I think I got them from Splice. Somebody had put a vocal chop on every single key. I tend to use those in like Moonbaton and Tropical House. And the last thing I want to go over is my return channel because I did send a picture of it to the producer I was referring to, and he was kind of surprised. So I watched a video from a pro music producer. I don't remember who it was, but he said he uses 9 different reverbs in his template, and I figured I should do the same. So I have Valhalla, an 1176, and I have a utility, but I'm only taming the width into the Sidewinder 2. And that is basically the format for this chamber reverb section. I just separate 3 different reverbs for drums and synths and vocals so I can raise and lower it in the mix. And this is a short room reverb. I love this plugin. It's by Perfect Room 2 from Denise Audio. I would recommend copping that. And same thing for this Lush. It is also a Perfect Room 2 plugin. And the long, I don't really use this one that much unless it's for an effect or something. But I also have the Perfect Plate. Oh, I need to authorize. I still have that one on a subscription. But yeah, this plugin is relatively simple. It's got a little bit of a cheesy interface, but it's a great sounding plugin. These distortion buses are mainly for my drums and bass. Bad Tape 2, My Crush, 1176, EQ in the high end. I've got a tube preamp from UAD. I don't know if that one's native yet, but I'm also using Schwab Digital's Gold Clip. I'm a huge Schwab Digital fanboy. I use all their plugins on my master buses, pretty much. You can get Schwab Digital plugins on a rent to own. And then same thing for the lo-fi, just Bad Tape and My Crush. And I usually produce with a L2 on the master, especially if I'm making a video and I don't want the output to clip. I do have the output in OBS set to so where it's still at the green. I don't like it to go to the yellow or red because then it gets kind of distorted. But let me know if you want to book a consultation. I do produce, but let me know if you want to do an online consultation. I do offer Zoom consultations for a small fee. I do also offer music production lessons. It's based on a 2-hour time frame. So the first hour is just talking and basically getting to know each other, and then we figure out your strengths and weaknesses. And the second hour is questions and anything related to music you want to talk about. We can do a deep dive in Ableton, whatever you need. I do have the capabilities to do online lessons now. I do have the yearly Zoom subscription. So just DM me on any social media platform. If I don't see it right away, I don't have notifications turned on for TikTok. So your best bet is to reach out to me on Instagram. That's at Luke Eichard Music. Just change the tutorials to music and you'll have my social media. I keep it the same throughout all my social medias because it really annoys me when people have different usernames for different social medias. But if you're local to Charlotte, I do also offer in-person lessons, so DM me for that as well, and I will see you later. Peace.